Welcome to the panel segment for the conference today. We're honored to have such an auspicious panel to participate in this discussion this afternoon. God has been gracious to us that they have consented to be here. You'll have to look in the program to see the magnitude of the expertise that's present here today. An introduction will be made just shortly. My purpose for standing here is just to welcome all of our panelists to this forum and to welcome all of you to the session today. It's already been a great day. Many wonderful things have transpired, and we're just beginning. The surface has not even been touched. Men who are here that are going to be answering questions, perhaps even posing questions for us to consider. Let me begin by, again, acknowledging the presenters from this morning and let them know how much we appreciate the things they had to say, the way in which they responded to our questions, and to express gratitude and appreciation to the Committee on Human Development that planned and orchestrated this program today. I want to especially express appreciations to those who had to make tremendous changes in their schedules in order for them to be here today. It shows the depth of their heart and consciousness toward our community and toward the needs of men at a time when it's necessary for us to lift up our heads. Today, we're being led down a path to the uprising of the African American man. The man who hopes will lead here to a commitment of greater things and a greater future. The man who will be ready to man up in his situations, who will handle those things that he must face. And at the end of the day, to recognize that the future belongs to him and to his posterity. We know that some level of sacrifice has been made even for you to be here today. And so for all of you who have come from so many places and who have made so many sacrifices to get here, we want you to know we appreciate you and we welcome you to the inaugural event of the Men's Conference. Looking forward that this will not be the last. Thank you for coming and welcome to the McAllen Church of Christ.
Thank you, Brother Harris. Can't hear. Are we? Can you hear me? Okay, good. So what we're going to do is take this opportunity to introduce our presenter first, and then our panelists, or however they come up on the screen. So while they're preparing that, I just want to tell you that this panel was handpicked by me. And so I was listening to some of the conversations this morning on, I guess, in reference to a dog. But 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of us standing up here are familiar with an organization that when you see our colors, you say something like a Q dog. Oh, that's right. But I wanted to show you that that stigma is just a stigma. Because every one of these men on this platform are successful Omega men. All right? So you needed to know the real story. But today is a great day. It's an opportunity for us to put forth some information to you as it relates to our everyday living. Our first person up that's going to present is Mr. Rizelle. Brother Harris and I had an opportunity to visit the radio show on the 12th of March, and we were invited in to do 10 or 15 minutes worth of advertising for this activity. And it started at 11, at 5 minutes to 12, he was telling us thank you. The Brother Harris was long-winded. And it was a battle. No, I'm just kidding. So it was 5 minutes to 12, but we kind of shared. You know, he got a little bit more time in than I did. But you see the bio on Mr. Aaron. It's more extensive than that. It's in the book. I met this gentleman a few years back. He's a serious-minded person. He's going to bring us some information on serious issues that we are faced with in our daily walk as African-American males. It's going to be very challenging for some of us to, what did Brother Lane or Brother Marshall said, just whatever he was telling us, be quiet, don't say nothing, don't talk back, don't get angry. What did you say, Brother Marshall? Where is he? You know what I said. Y'all know what he said. Y'all know what I'm talking about. Yeah, calm down. Right. And Brother Aaron has that same disposition as well. Let's get the facts out. Let's understand what's happening to us, but let's be calm in how we deal with it. Immediately to his right is Mr. Bobby Acklin. Mr. Acklin is the superintendent of the North Little Rock School District. Mr. Acklin is the first African-American superintendent of the North Little Rock School District, and I want to say thank you to him for being here to discuss the state of the African-American male as it relates to education. To his right is Mr. Vaughn. Mr. Vaughn is the police, right? And I know we sometimes have trouble with the police, but he is also operating under my leadership with our chapter organizations. I don't have a problem with it. But you see Mr. Terrell's Vaughn's bio. He's a detective with the Little Rock Police Department. He's been assigned to the Federal Bureau of Investigations. He's got clearances with the CIA and the Joint Terrorism Task Force. He made one statement to me, and that's why I'm looking around. He made a statement to me one day, and he said, "You never know people that sit in these churches that's on a terrorism watch list." But we also got another cop in here, and I ain't gonna point him out. He carries a big gun, so don't get sideways, okay? Next, to his right, Mr. Gregory Summers. Mr. Summers retired fire chief for the city of Little Rock. He was the first African-American fire chief for the city. He recently retired and moved to the area of insurance, and he's going to show us how we don't capitalize on those benefits that are there for us and some of the deficiencies that we face because of a lack of knowledge. Immediately to my left will be the moderator, good friend of mine. I'm sitting next to him on purpose. Mr. Eric Buchanan. Eric Buchanan is an attorney. He has his own firm. He's very, very outspoken. I prepped the congregation for this before, but we've had our talk. So we talked down the hall just a few minutes ago before he got to the seat. So I'm saying that so that Eric can hear me say that again. To his left is Dr. Derick Lewis. Dr. Lewis is going to bring us information as it relates to our health as African-American men and the do's and don'ts and those things that we're troubled by as well. And then to his left is Mr. Darrin Williams. And Darrin is the CEO of Bancorp, Southern Bancorp. I get it backwards. I appreciate you correcting me. Brother Williams is also a former state legislator. He's had high regards in respect to the legislative process. He's held in high esteem. You see the bios in front of you. But Brother Williams is also, I believe, a first with the organization. Yep. So first and only. So I'm saying that, and I'm Brother Mike Williams, and I'm the founder and executive director of Foundation Fatherhood, which is a nonprofit organization that focuses on bridging the gap between non-custodial fathers and their biological children. You heard all of that conversation this morning. Dr. Lane stole my show. He stole all of my thunder. But I got some numbers that he didn't have, and I'll be able to share it share that with you in just a moment. So without further ado, I'm going to bring up Mr. Eric Buchanan to get this program open. Thank you.
Thank you very much. My name is Eric. I got some allergies working. My name is Derick Smith Buchanan. I'm a lawyer, and Mike told me I couldn't. I have been known to cuss at sometimes. I do have a cussing condition. I've been praying over it. I have a cussing condition, but I'm not going to do it here because Mike has admonished me, and there are people who are they can lock me up, so I will be. Anyway, I appreciate being here. I see Loyd in the audience. The only thing I don't like about Loyd is he's not a cute. he's a good guy. I mean, he's just a good guy, and I can say that truthfully. I can say I love him as a brother. He's just a good guy, and I'm happy every time I see Loyd because he smiles and he's just a positive person. But this kind of feels like jump school. How many veterans in here? Yeah, so this kind of feels like, remember where I go to jump school and you got to C-130 going down the track. Get ready to jump out of a plane, and it's exhilarating. So this is how this feels. I think we as black men, we should, this is an excellent idea, Mike. It's excellent. We should talk more. We should be together more. I haven't been around so many black men focused on the same objective probably since jump school. So I appreciate you, Mike, for this effort. We have questions, and I have questions I'm going to read because I can memorize them. I'm 64. I know I look good. I don't care what y'all think. Look here. Go ahead and tell me. They tell me where I go. They say, I don't know. Listen. Listen. I can't believe it. I know I'm 64. My memory, this is what the problem with 64 is. Your memory is still excellent, but it's short. And so I remember everything, but it's just for a short period. So I have notes, I have copious notes. But anyway, so Chief Summers, former Chief Summers. You're among several trailblazers of the state today. Thank you for showing our fellow. Who? You on first? Yeah. Okay.
That's my fault, not his.
I know it's not mine.
We won't get another introduction from him. Brother Aaron, you're up. I'll apologize to you.
It's not in my notes.
Hey, good afternoon, gentlemen. To Shepherd, Loyd Harris, and of course my brother Michael Williams, and all of these fine gentlemen on the panelists on the platform here, and even Eric. Glad and honored to have an opportunity to be with you, gentlemen, and all of you that are here today. I've had the pleasure of interacting with some of these men, but not all of them, and so I'm glad to have this opportunity here today. Again, my name is Rizelle Aaron, and I've got about 15 minutes to give you an overview of the status of the African American male. Now, some of the slides that I'm going to bring to you, there's about 11 or 12 of them, I think. They're going to be hard, but they're going to be fair. And they're geared really toward our younger African American males, but our elders can certainly share this information. And to those that may view this on YouTube live or after a while, then I encourage you to share this information with our African American males. Usually I introduce my wife. I don't know that it's necessary this time. She's the only lady in the room. She's mine. Earlier, these slides were running early, and I want to talk just briefly about these before we go to the PowerPoint. I think Michael mentioned that most times I'm serious, and I need to be serious for this purpose. These are 56 African American males that were killed by police officers. The majority of these young men were unarmed, and the ones that were armed were legally armed. From 15 to 58, all of these men died at the hand of police. And I wanted to recognize what has happened to these men before I go into this PowerPoint, because we're talking about the state of the African American male, ages 15 to 58. They're gone. And now, if we would, with the slideshow, please, the PowerPoint. Lifting up our head, state of the African American male overview. Of course, I'm Rizelle, and of course, y'all know where we at, so I ain't got to say that next part. Next slide, please. I'm going to talk briefly about criminal justice, economics, education, environment, mental health, substance abuse, alcohol, and illegal drugs. Next slide. Now, a recent study of 93 million folks for a period from 2001 to 2017 in police traffic stops. Research conducted determined that black folks are 20% more likely to be pulled over by police than white folks. And that's why I'm starting here. The majority of the issues that come with this are the cause of discrimination, racism, implicit, explicit biases. Racial profiling is the likely reasons for this problem. But it results in excessive force, wrongful arrest, and the murder of innocent, those 56 men you just saw, unarmed black males. It also leads to prison and jails filled with more black males than white males. Next slide, please. Bradley Blackshire Sr. Bradley Blackshire Jr. is my nephew. He is 8 years old. This was his father. On February 22nd of this year, he was murdered by Charles Starks, the Run police officer. Now, I want to give you an idea about the state of the African American male this way. The other day when my nephew went down to the cemetery to his father's grave, this man's grave, he asked when his father was going to wake up. This man should not be dead. His children should not be suffering. Many of you have seen the video. This is hard, but it's fair reality. 30 years old, gone in the blink of an eye. Criminal justice. Next slide, please. Now, economics, this is a simple explanation. I know a lot of us are scholars in here, but this is the simple explanation for the young men that may not have the education that we have. It's simply the production and consumption of the transfer of money. Now, many of our young African-American males, some of our African-American males understand the consumption and the spending of money. The problem is that we are not educating them on how to manage and spend it wisely. Nickel and dime bags and blunts are not the wise way to spend the money, and it's not actually the consumption that we want to be teaching them. And we're going to talk about that a little bit more in a minute, because there's a reason that there's an issue with consumption, and it's because of the environment in many of our homes where we're teaching them to consume the wrong things. And so when we look at this as the transfer of money and we talk about the differences or the disparities, that means for people that may not understand that some folks that make more money than us, even though we have the same qualifications that they have, because simply they are of a different race. Now, I want to touch on that real quick, because a lot of our young brothers may not understand what they are facing. Many of our young children and our young men don't find out until they find out the hard way that they have white folks that are going to make more money than them that are doing the same jobs. And we are failing to prepare them for this reality. And when they find out that they're making less, part of the consequence is that they'll leave the job that they're at, or they don't perform well and they fail to be successful because we ain't taught them no better. And so when we talk about understanding the disparities in the pay and the differences or the pay gap between black males and white males, then we have to start teaching them and letting them understand at an early age that there may be instances that white folks are going to make more money than us, but there is an answer. And that's why at the end of each slide, you're going to see we can still lift up our heads. Next slide. It's not all doom and gloom. Education, black males are typically educated in public schools, and I don't have to read all of that. I'll just go, just come from the hip on this. Our schools in poor communities and poor communities of color are not getting the money that other schools over on the other side of the tracks are getting. Now, the other side of the track, I know some of our elders can understand. The other side of the tracks means that there's a black side and then there's the other side. On the black side, our schools are not getting what they need in most cases, but then the other schools on the other side of the tracks are getting more. Now watch this. I took some young men on a trip over to a school, a brand new school, actually Pulaski County School District. And they are from the other side of the track. And when I took them over to that new school so they could see it, they were wondering and upset that their school did not look like Maumell's school. Now that goes toward the mindset of our young men, but also our young women and parents as well in poor communities, because we're spending money and building where money already is and failing to put money where it needs to be. Charter schools harming our communities. Charter schools pulling out the best and brightest even of the African American males, because their parents, some of them have the ability to drive them to charter schools. Ain't no school buses. And so if you poor and you working 3, 4 jobs, 2 or 3 jobs every single day, and you trying to make ends meet, and you ain't got no car, or you jumping rides or jumping buses, then ain't no way you're going to get your child to them charter schools. But here's one point I want to make about that. Charter schools are not performing any better than our public schools. And so what's happening is that we're pulling those students from public schools, placing them in charter schools, and they're still not performing well, but it separates them from the students in the public schools or in the poor communities. Next slide, please. And I'm not going to do like Minister Loyd and Weaves did when they came to my show. I'm going to make sure I stick with my time. Y'all thought I didn't have no sense of humor. Environment. Many black males grow up in poor families. This is very important, and this is one of the main things I want to talk about right here. Many, y'all can read it for yourself. I'm not going to read every word. Many black males grow up in poor families, living in poor communities. Many of us grow up in homes with adults that drink alcohol and do illegal drugs. There's physical abuse. Some of them are alcoholics and some are drug addicts. And they allow us and listen to anything in front of us that they want to. Now, we're going to talk about this in my little 15-minute time. Now, I'm not trying to hurt your feelings, but this may be your house. If your children and young brothers, listen to me carefully. If you are listening, praising, fantasizing, and worshiping Cardi B, Jay-Z, and Beyonce, then you're on the wrong road. But grown folks, we are part of the problem, because they listen to what we allow them to listen to. We call it cute. We play the music for them. We dance with them. And it's our fault. The environment that we grow up in and allow our children to grow up in impacts them for their entire lives. It's cute when they're young, but when they become old and they still dropping it like it's hot, then we want to kill them. But it's our fault that they're still dropping it like it's hot, because some of y'all still trying to, you just can't get back up. This is important, because some of us remain quiet even when we see our children allowing their children to do this foolishness. Some of us, not us, some of y'all are scared of your own kids. You are afraid to teach them, and you are afraid to train them. And if you are men and you are afraid, then God can't use no coward soldiers. that it's time for black men and even black women to stand up and stop being afraid of your own children and teach them the right direction and the right way to go.
Yes, sir. Right.
Because you're the very ones that are complaining every time you see them do it. But you're too scared to say something. Now y'all run around and fight each other. But you're scared of an argument with your son or your daughter. And then we're going to get mad at them because they acting a fool. I didn't say they was fools. I said they acting a fool because of how we allow them to grow up. Smoking blunts with your babies. Putting beer in baby bottles. That ain't new. They did that when I was a boy. And you think it's funny when a child wobbles around the house after you've given them beer in a bottle. 11-year-old girl, 11-year-old child, out for summer break was at my house visiting. And they were outside, and somebody outside on the block was smoking weed, and you could smell it as we were sitting on our patio. The young girl said, "Ooh, that smells good." She knew the smell from somewhere. But we can't be afraid to make the correction, because if that's your house right there, if that's your house, then that's your fault. Next slide, please. That's me. Now you understand why I'm showing you that picture in just a second, especially the young men. Now you can't see the top of my head, but I got an afro. That's a school picture in the 4th grade. Everybody get dressed up, get ready to go to the school picture, and you put on your best clothes. And of course, I had a shirt that I'd been given by my older brother. And you can't see my afro, but that morning, because we had lost the comb and couldn't afford to buy another comb, I had combed my hair with a fork. And you could literally see the 4 lines from the fork all across my head where I picked my hair out. The reason for that is because when young men see us standing on this platform, they don't realize that we come from where they come from. Because now we're in suits, cotton sacks to Cadillacs, and they think we always been that way, but we ain't. That's me. Now, I may be looking happy, but the truth is I was a miserable child. There was the physical abuse, there was the alcohol, there was the drugs, there were all kinds of things in my environment, and that's me during the storm. Next slide. Many black males suffer from overwhelming cases of mental health. We cannot be afraid. We've got issues, we've got depression, and after this slide, you're going to see why. I think I've just got a few more slides left. After this slide, you're going to see why. African-American males, grown men are scared to go get help. Because y'all think y'all woman not going to want you no more. If you go get some counseling or you go get some medication. All of us don't need medication and counseling. Some of us just need somebody to talk to, but if you don't go get it, then you won't be helped. And these young men that may be going through depression, these younger generation young men that are going through depression, we're not allowing them to speak out because we're trying to be strong. We're being afraid to go, and they're afraid to go because we're afraid to go. Who they going to talk to if they can't come talk to us about that? You'd be amazed at how many of our young men are depressed. And a lot of times you can't even see it on the outside. I understand Dr. Lane was here earlier, and I hate I missed his presentation, but I believe that he could probably confirm much of what I'm saying. Now watch this next slide. Bradley Blackshire Jr. Senior died on February 22nd. A week later, March 2nd, my nephew, Devin Jackson, 19 years old, died. Going through severe depression. Couldn't see it on the outside, just got a new job, got a new cell phone, got a new car, living every day like he was ready for the next day. And according to the report so far, he woke up Saturday morning, he put a gun to his head and killed himself. March 2nd, 2019, he's 19 years old. Full ride scholarship to UAPB plan 2. Lived with me for a couple of years till he went to live in the dorms at UAPB. intelligent young man, studying, wanted to be on the engineering track. Could not see it on the outside, although he expressed it in words sometimes. And I even got him counseling. But sometimes we may still not see. We just buried it. And the reason that I'm giving you these few slides, and there's only a couple more left, is because this is home. This ain't somebody I pulled up on the internet. This is somebody that lived in my house. This is somebody that we got through school and got into UAPB. This is a young man that I love like a son. He was at home in Jacksonville at his mother's house on Saturday morning, about 8:30 in the morning. Took a gun, according to the reports, killed himself. Now, the gun that he got, you may be shocked about this. He got it in Acklin. Yeah. When we went back and did the research and stuff, there was a young man here in Acklin. Police know about it now. Videos and pictures of all the guns that he had that he was trying to sell right here in Acklin. This is in your house.
Yeah. All right.
Next slide. Yeah. Substance abuse. I think this is final one. Substance abuse, alcohol, illegal drugs. I don't know nobody that's black that don't know about that. We're selling it to each other. We're giving it to kin folks, and I'm going to share this quick story with you, and I may go 1 minute over if that's, well, I'm sure, sorry, they went 45 over. In the church. Let me share this story with you. A young man, a few years ago, him and his brother, true story, him and his brother was smoking weed one day. Both of them liked to smoke weed, but he went to his other brother, his younger brother, and he said, hey man, I got some new stuff, you want to try it? It was weed, but it had something else with it. He let his brother try it, and right now today, his brother is an addict. Because it had something in there that he can't get over. He thought he was helping his brother. Wanted to get him a good high. Just like some of y'all friends are going to try to do to y'all. They're going to try to give you a good high. They're going to try to get you to try something that they say going to make you feel good. But what's going to happen is you're going to start stealing your mom and daddy's stuff. You're going to start breaking into cars, breaking into homes. You're going to start robbing folks. And what's going to happen is you're going to end up dead or in jail. Because somebody tried to make you feel good. And let me share this with you. Some of them are mad at us because we ain't paying no attention to them. We telling them not to smoke dope while we got a joint in our hand. And they mad. Let me tell you, we had it in Sunday school the other day. I asked the children how they felt about when their moms and daddies tell them something. Wow, tell them what not to do while they're doing the same thing they tell them not to do. They said they were sad, they were hurt, they were disappointed, they were frustrated. These were children. Next slide. About done. Why should we lift up our heads? Because if you're in this room today, you are still alive, and there's still hope for us. These men, including myself, are from the same place as you. I was raised in the projects, grew up on food stamps, went to bed hungry many days, got laughed at and talked about for being poor. There was drugs and alcohol in the house. I listened to all kinds of foolish music, but even after all of that, men just like these men that are here today showed me how to lift up my head. And one day you may be just like these men. You may be teaching someone else to lift up his head. Next slide. We may face obstacles and roadblocks as African-American males. The state of the African-American male may appear to be dismal, but there's hope. If we can open our ears and listen, these men can show us how to lift up our heads. The state of the African-American male is always good, and as long as we live and breathe, there's hope. African-American males are brave, they're strong, we're intelligent, we're loving, we are caring survivors. Slide. That's one of my mentors. That's one of the reasons I'm standing before you today. Mr. Ivory, tell me, go to church right here in Markham Mount, or whatever Stevie Robinson, next slide. And this is me after the storm.
All right.
The 4th grade photo with picking my hair out with a metal fork that we eat with from the table was me in the storm. This is me separating Dr. Martin Luther King holiday from Robert E. Lee, the Confederate general, and the signing of the bill by the governor. We've been where you are, but all hope is not lost. Lift up your heads, because you can just be just like all of these men that are about to talk to you right now. There is hope. Let's stand together and continue to lift up our heads. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sharon. Sorry, I appreciate your, can everybody hear me? Yeah. So now we'll proceed with former Chief Summers. Former Chief Summers, you're among several trailblazers at the table today. Congratulations on your recent retirement. It's really upsetting that you're retired too. I'm not happy with it. I have to work until I'm dead. Thank you for your service to the community. One of the biggest mistakes that African American men make is that they tend to believe that insurance coverage that they have on their current jobs will carry over when they leave their place of employment. How often does this occur with African American men? And what insights can you share with us that may help us in our change of focus on this issue?
Thank you for the question. Before I answer that question, before you die, let me write your policy. No, seriously though, we've got this perception that the coverage that we have on our job is enough. In actuality, the employer takes out this coverage because they want to attract, their main objective is to attract employees. Their main objective is not to make sure that your families are taken care of. Like for the city of Little Rock, I think the coverage is 1 times your salary. So if you're making $40,000 a year, when you die, you got a $40,000 coverage policy. So when I ask people during this process, what do you want your legacy to be? Or what do you want monies that you have remaining to do for your families? And they talk about, I want to make sure that all my bills are paid. I want to make sure that my wife or my husband has enough money to take care of himself. We've got 3 kids. I want all of them to go to college. I want to make sure that I'm buried. And $40,000 is not going to do that. And when I was approached to be part of the partner program for New York Life, I pushed back. But when I looked at the work that I did within the fire department and helping African Americans come on to the fire department, it was a no-brainer for me to continue on this path and be able to educate our community on the importance of life insurance. So we look at it as strictly a burial policy. $10,000 to bury someone. You want to be able to make sure that you can take care of your family when it's all said and done. So that perception about the insurance on the job is not enough. Can't take care of your family. That's not the objective of the employer. And you cannot, in some cases, take it with you. If you start off in an organization, for me example, I was 23 when I started off the Fire Department. So So my parents didn't educate me on insurance coverages. It's not to their fault because no one probably educated them. So when I got ready to retire, I had to pay a whole lot more for my coverage than I did if I would have took it out at 23. $500,000 policy on a 23-year-old probably costs $15 a month. So the perception of what you have on your job, trust me, is not enough. And you need to make sure that you've got something in place that your loved one is taken care of.
Thank you very much. One more question. Traditionally, African American men will use the cliche of, my parents didn't leave me with anything. I only need enough to bury me. How does this concept compare to other races of people? And how do they view insurance as a whole versus the African American community? Can you give some examples?
Yes, I can tell you that I hear that quite a bit. My parents didn't have anything. Once again, they probably didn't have their cancer. You know, you recall the insurance man used to come by the house, knock on the door,
Wow.
every day religiously. And our parents was paying for that every day they came by. And what I've discovered since I've been a part of this industry is that when they went to cash those policies in, if they had anything, if they had anything, it was probably no more than $600. I've heard cases $600, $300. They paid for it their whole life and didn't have any coverage whatsoever. So when you think about other nationalities, I'll give you an example. The Asian community, they pool their dollars together. Y'all know that.
Oh yeah.
Go to any wig store, you know that. They pool their dollars together. And they'll go in and they'll get all the siblings to get $1 million policy on the mother and $1 million policy on the father. And when one of them passes away, they take those proceeds and they go get $1 million policies on everybody else. When that Asian agent is sitting across the table from that Asian consumer, they slide a sheet of paper across and say, I got your $1 million coverage, this is how much it costs, and they sign on the dotted line because that's what the expectation is. No presentations about how this money is going to perform, the difference between term, whole life, universal life. None of those discussions go on. They just know that. When you see, and I've seen this, when you put up in any high school parking lot and you see all these Mercedes-Benz and BMWs, and you say, these kids say, oh, our parents are rich. No, their parents were smart. Not saying that we're not smart, we just don't know, because I've shown illustrations to our community and we just wasn't aware of it. When I saw it the first time, I wasn't aware of it. They'll take out a $500,000 whole life insurance policy on an unborn child, pay $500 a month. For 15 years, they pay $90,000 for that whole life policy. After that 15th year, that policy is paid in full. When that child turns 22, they go get $40,000 out of that policy tax-free. When that child turns 30, they go get $40,000 out of that policy tax-free. At 40, $40,000 tax-free. That's $120,000 they've got in that policy. For 15 years, they paid $90,000. They have $30,000 to the community. When they pass away, no, take that back. At 65, they take $30,000 a year for the next 20 years for their retirement.
Thank you.
That's $720,000 that they got out of that policy.
Thank you, Chief Summers. I think
You got the picture?
we got it.
You share that policy, Sam.
I'm sure you have some cards. Detective Vaughn, I understand you're approaching the end of your career in law enforcement. Congratulations on reaching this milestone in your life. When you entered into law enforcement, you pledged to protect and serve the people. How would you rate the service level of our protectors towards African American men? And how we stack up against all other races statistically as it relates to crime, and why? That's 2 questions.
Ooh, wow.
You have 2 minutes.
First of all, let me say this, that it's a privilege to be here, and thank you for this opportunity, Mrs. Panel. How do we stack up amongst protecting towards African American men? It depends on how you look at it. The law enforcement aspects of it, we try to do what we can do to address the issues that are coming forward to us. Do we do it well? No, I'm not going to say we do it well. I will say that in my 32 years experience, policing, I know that police in downtown, midtown, and Little Rock is different than where we police in West. Yes. And the dividing line is universal. It has been that way for my 32 years experience. So I don't sugarcoat that. I'm not going to put lipstick on the real for you today. It is what it is. Stop right. So those things do exist. I can tell you that I've seen in my career where I've given myself personally, I've given African Americans a ticket, and I gave white folks a ticket. But I've always showed the way and teach how you can get rid of that ticket. Right. It's a key word that we use in our profession called discretion. And I know that I can use it to my ability, and I don't have to be guilty. And once I realized that was my way of giving back to the community. Even though you was wrong, I still done it. So that's how I say that. The reason why, I think Dr. Lane gave us a while earlier, and I'm not going to repeat what he said, because it was the truth. I thought about it as he was speaking, sat in that chair, all the interviews of the young men that I had put in prison, and interviews I took as a homicide detective. I was teary-eyed on that. So.
I hope nobody's recording this. I hope it's not going to be on Facebook. Oh, you're? I'm not. Okay, I hope.
I'm okay,
okay, it's got to incriminate. You can hire me though, because some of that was incriminating. Dr. Lewis, Dr. Derick Lewis, would you like to discuss the role of the Black physician in our community?
This is to like me sitting out in the audience. Yes, I just looked up the most respected profession in the world, really. What it is? Doctors. So we are kind of like the good community. Now you talk about the role of doctors in the community, and I can put you as a like me. That means my role is to be a mentor, which means that there are a lot of people watching what I do and what I say. So I have to watch what I do and what I say. Now, but it also brings another factor, because one thing that's going to happen that most people respect when doctors are they're going to see when you get older is the pawpaw, is the preacher. They're going to see me, respect me, and the preacher. Always. I just get with a doctor, because you're going to see one of them before it's all over. Both at the end. But I have a little young man. His mother is short. His father is short. He's on honor roll in school. So I asked him, he was like, I said, so what are you going to do when you grow up? You want to manage something? He said, no, I'm going to be like LeBron James. I'm going to be a basketball player. And I told his mother, I said, you need to be real there. Now, is he going to be like a Spud Webb or somebody that's really, really good? His chances of becoming a basketball player is kind of low. And he's about 20 years old. So reality needs to set in. And I said it because social media doesn't allow reality. All these kids think they're going to be this big pro football player or pro basketball player, whatever. Also say you don't have to be a doctor or a lawyer or a judge to be successful. You can be a lawnmower repairer. You can be a car repairer. You can be a fireman, you can be anything and be successful and be happy. Because in life, it's not how much money you have, it's how happy you are. Because in the end, you can't take the money with you. It's the happiness. And in medicine, my role is to make you happy. So I say this to Paul because I want you to look at the little kids and be mentor to them, but talking about professions, and they don't have, if you know your kid is 3'2" and want to be a basketball player, don't say, well, I don't want to hurt his feelings. Hurt his feelings. And tell him, son, be real. You're 3'2". You're not going to do that. You're just not going to do that. And if he's 3'2" and smart, talk to him about him going to something that's going to fit his career. And then one last thing. You have to be responsible. You have to take control of the kid's life. And I say this because I was raised by my mother. My mother saw something in me. When I was about 18 years old, I'll tell you about the story. Everybody said, what are you going to do when you get out of school? And by the way, high school is getting out of high school, and that decision for teenagers make is the most important decision they're ever going to make in their life. And if that's the time we have to step in and say, no, son, you got good grades, you're going to college. And this is what my mother told me. No, son, you are going to college. Now, I told her I just want to be drunk, change, and be a whole boy. I want to do any of that stuff. First, I told her I want to be a lawyer. She said, no, you're not going to be a lawyer. But I say this to say the last thing. In high school, we as parents, really, those kids don't have a clue what's going on in life. They'll tell you don't do this thing. They don't have a clue. You've been there, you've done it, you've experienced things. Use your experience. Take money in. And I say this to grandparents, because I think the grandparents really have more influence on kids than the parents. As grandparents, let's say, no, son, tell the parents, no, this kid, I saw him, I watched him draw. This kid drawing everywhere, put him in architecture, put him in law, put him in anything that draws, nurses those skills. Some kids can rap and talk, don't let him be a rapper, let him be a speaker, but put him somewhere that nurses those skills. And if he goes like I was, painting and playing with bugs and all that stuff, put him in med school. But if he's 3'2", do not try to send him to be a LeBron James.
Thank you so much. Just a side note, I read an article that said that there are 1 million black boys in America that want to be NBA players, but every year the NBA has 7 job openings for starters. So you got 1 million black boys competing for 7 jobs. And so the schizophrenia is that we tell our sons the only way to work out of our condition is through sports. That's just not true. Superintendent Acklin, you are superintendent of North Little Rock School District. And I'd like for you to enlighten us on the deficiencies of black males in the school district and the future of education for black males. And I preface that with, and I'm going to give you a little more time because this is one of my mantras. I'm a product of segregation. This is what I've seen in my own eyes. Segregation, forced busing integration, white flight, black middle class flight. My friends and their kids are Little Rock Christian. And it's my position that we're kind of back at segregation now. And so I'd like you to discuss the current state of education. For us, the confusion we have, charter schools, public schools, private schools, religious schools, the confusion in our community. And I'm going to give you a little more time because education is salvation. The only reason I exist is because of education. And that's the only way we lift it up through the generation. So I'm going to give you 3 minutes.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Just happy to be here today to discuss education and the state of education. At North Little Rock School District, we are on spring break this week, and all this week, no students, teachers, anybody there. And so there's been no suspensions, no expulsions, nothing has gone wrong over the last week. And I say that because many times we say the school is the problem. But the school is not the problem. It's a social problem. It's an economic problem. It's a community problem. And the school has responsibility to help correct. there's no student in North Little Rock School District that grew up poorer than I did. Not one. So all kids can learn, but poor kids must learn. All kids can learn, but poor kids must learn. That's our meal ticket to better our situation. And, my parents had 3rd grade education, 6th grade education, but they knew the value of education because as a senior in high school, I had an opportunity to sign a contract with the New York Mets Farm Club. And my daddy refused to allow me to do that. He said, you need to go to college and get your education because I've seen guys go as good as you and better and didn't make it and had nothing to fall back on. What he was really telling me was that he didn't want me to dream of sports and leave the academic part out. And that's what we as the young people tend to do. Daddy told me, it's all the time together, that never forget where you came from. And that's why usually when I speak, I say I was poor, grew up as poor as any of the kids, because you don't need to forget that and think that you have arrived. That's right. And I think that's part of the problem, why we're so hard to get mentors in the school. Oh, if you do a thrust on it, you get it one time, maybe two, but on a consistent basis to get community people like us into the schools to visit with our young black boys, just to have a man to touch, because they're touching grandma. Probably 35–40% of our kids are living with grandparents or foster parents of some sort. They need a male to say, boy, don't do that. Young man, don't do that. They need somebody in authority in their life. I can go to any one of those schools and I feel like I'm a rock star just because I'm a man, because we're lacking males in our schools. So what do we do about it? Now, we can talk about it. We can sit at this table and talk about it and point out the issues and the problems that we have. But what do we do when we come down from here? I'm going to ask that to myself. What do I do when I come off this stage? Do I just hear you say you made a good talk? Man, that was I can relate. Now, what are you going to do next? Now, what I think we should be doing is we should first be honest with our young people. As you've heard some of the others say, you're not going to NBA, get your education. And it's not always a college education. We have one of the best career programs in North Little Rock that's in the state of Arkansas. It can be, that make a whole lot more money than I make as superintendent of the school district. There are respectable trades that our young people can acquire and would have a whole lot more fun with it than going to college necessarily to be a school teacher, a lawyer, whatever you want to be. And I think that that's what we have to do, is open up opportunities for our children. Because if you just say you got to go to college and they're really not college bound, so to speak, quote unquote, college bound, they feel like they have no avenue. But if you're a plumber, have you ever had a plumber come to your house lately? And they pull that little thing off the truck that twirl like this, you're in trouble. You're in trouble. So our young guys, this is my first task as not only a superintendent, but but a black man myself that can identify with them, is the first thing, trying to keep them alive. You don't understand, you do understand how difficult it is just to keep a youngster alive. I'm not talking about educating them. I'm not talking about getting them to have 100% attention. I'm talking about just to keep them alive. And then once we keep them alive, to get them focused. We have a lot of young parents that are running with their kids. And so that creates issues because they would team up on you, as youngsters will do. They would team up on you, not get it, you won't get anything accomplished. Now, I know you, I don't know, but I want to say this.
You can say it. Go ahead. Preach.
The public school is under attack.
Come on now.
The public school is under attack. And if we sit back and let the government or whomever dismantle the public school, we're going to be in trouble. The public school is under attack and it's criticized, but it's the only system that accepts whatever comes to try to educate them and to make them a better citizen. And that's the public school. And there's an attack because people want to take public dollars now and send them to the private school. Which suggests to me, this is my quote on this when I tell the newspaper, it proves that we don't value public education, our public education system. When they try, charter schools have taken a lot of the good students. Watch this. Now we got Senate Bill 620 that wanted to take low socioeconomic kids that's on free and reduced lunch and give them scholarship. Their state money can go to the private school to pay for it. They're trying to dismantle us on both ends. They're trying to we got to keep the public school healthy. So that's not a school issue, that's a community issue. We all need to fight that. When I say fight it, I don't mean put your gloves on, but we need to open our mouth and speak out against it. Our public school system must stay healthy. All right. Must stay healthy.
I agree with you. And, but the question in my mind is, why do we go? Black folk. Because I defy anybody in this room. I'm almost perfect. You know how I got that way? I got a good education. I defy anybody. There's no evidence that I didn't get a good education. No evidence. And I went to school in segregation. 1 through 9, I went to Dunbar in total segregation. No white folk at all. How did I learn? So the question is, this is what I ask young folk all the time. How can your children not be learning in today's market? We have more resources. Yeah. The internet, that's a great equalizer. Yeah. So why do you believe as a black person, your kid's going to get a better education at a charter school or a liberal Christian or CSC or the private schools? Because those schools are between 0 and 3% black, maybe 0 and 5% non-black. So the question is, what's in our minds to believe that we can't educate ourselves? Yeah. That's a schizophrenia. Why do we show up at the charter schools? And the data, this is what the data shows. And I'm gonna shut up. Listen, because I'm gonna do my own sermon on this. This is what the data shows. The data shows that, and I talked to somebody who knows, who's been a superintendent in 3 jurisdictions with charter schools. The data shows that when a charter school gets to be 40% black, you get 90% white flag. It's gonna be all black. Mm-hmm. Look around if you think I'm lying. And so, if we're gonna be all black, you know, I'm just confident that because I have many, that we can educate ourselves without anybody's intervention. Because we did in the past. And so, with that, Banker Williams. Banker Williams. It is my absolute conclusion, it is unrefutable, that banks are oxygen in America. Banks are what? Oxygen. 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 You cannot live without it. You cannot. And so I have 2 questions for you. How do we gain access to the banking system? You're president of a bank. So the question is, how do we gain more access to the system? Because In my life, it seems like our access to capital is de minimis. When I go to Western, I was in Promenade last night. When I go out there, it causes my PTSD to go up. Because I can't understand how they build and build and build and create and create and create and never stop. And my side of town is dormant. So it has to be access to capital. So these are two questions. I want to know how we can gain access to capital. That's one question. And I want to know why. And I have Jesus. I love Jesus. I'm trying to get to heaven to see my mama. For sure. So I'm going to be with it. But this is what I want to know. Why do we build mega churches as black folk and we don't build mega banks? That's the question.
Hey, can you get him the clear mic right there? Let him speak in the clear mic right there.
Others. Now, banking has been discriminatory for years and still is in many instances because our communities have been redlined and we will not lend it in those communities. We understand those issues, we understand those problems, we understand those problems. And I won't say that they don't exist, but we have got to be investors, we've got to be entrepreneurs, we've got to be savers to be able to build some net worth so we can absorb when we do have certain losses. So I'm happy to stick around. I know we're on limited time. I'm happy to stick around and talk to anybody about the work that we do.
Could you touch on one subject? I'll shut it down. In my lifetime, I don't think there's ever been, you're a bank president, but you don't know all the shares.
No, I don't know. I'm an owner, but I don't know.
So in my lifetime, there's never been a banking entity where we own, a commercial lending entity, where we own 51% of it. Why is it? What's in our heads? I mean, we can church together, we can bury each other together, we can party, we can fraternity. What's in our heads? I never hear my pastor say, why don't we bank together?
Yeah.
What's in our, and a bank is like, every entity needs money all the time. It is the most important entity in our community, in my estimation. Why don't black folk? Little Rock's 46% black. We don't own a commercial. We can't. Do you know why I'm saying my business stays at the level it is? I know white boys, and I love everybody, but they got a $5 million line out there. They can sue anybody, do anything they want to do. So the question is, their friends own banks. Why is it that we don't loan money to each other? What's in our minds? Why is it not fundamental? Where does is it vestige of slavery? Where does the schizophrenia come in where nobody, the churches can't see it? Every black church don't have credit union. What do you attribute to?
Yeah, I wish I could answer that question. I can't, but there are a lot of things I can say about that. Unfortunately, for so long we believed white man's ice was cold. To be quite true. And we don't often spend time. White man's ice is cold. Two people selling ice, one white, one black, with a white guy because they think his ice is cold. It's ice, right? It melts at the same temperature. For some reason we believe that. But I don't know what that may be in our own makeup. Yes, it could be the district of slavery. It could be lack of education, lack of opportunities. But this country, this is not banking. Another subject here. The reason, and we talk about a lot of problems. I really want to give some positive reasons why we have many of these problems. Unfortunately, do date back to the district of slavery and institutional racism. The things that we are suffering from. We are not less than or not as smart or as good, but this system, until we dismantle the system, it's going to be hard for us to gain. So you've heard the analogy that two people running a race, equal speed, but one has 20-pound ankle weight. Clearly he's going to run slower. Well, let's call that weight slavery. And that's what we did for 234 years in America. We ran with ankle weights. Now what we say is, okay, let's take the weights off. But unfortunately, that white guy is so far ahead of us that I got to have something to bridge the gap between me and him to be able to do that. And so there's probably a lot of reasons why we don't do things, but it's not all our fault. But I think we should accept responsibility that it is our fault. But recognize it is not all our fault. The system is currently set up to keep people who look like me and you and poor people. I mean, it's not just we're just a black man's conference, but it's also poor people. The system is set up to keep poor people down. President Trump's tax breaks that he just gave last year did nothing for most folks who look like you and me. I mean, they gave millions and billions of dollars to rich people, and I mean rich people, and unfortunately, because of slavery, most of them happened to be white, not African American. So the reasons why we have the disparities really date back to institutional slavery and the business of slavery that still existed. And let me give you one example. We have a policy shop at our bank. We're a little unique. We actually write the legislation. We fight for policies that impact not just black people, but low-wealth people, but many low-wealth people have to be black. Give you an example. Right now in Arkansas, if you receive food assistance or housing assistance because you're low-wealth and feeding your children or putting a roof over your head, if you receive assistance through the target assistance for needy families called $10. If you receive that money, you cannot have more than $1,000 in assets. I'm sorry, $2,000 in assets. $2,000. So that means the system is designed for you never to have more than $2,000. You can never get out of poverty if you can't save more than $2,000. If you get $2,002, somebody's going to cut you off of your assistance. That means now you have a place to live or you can't feed your children. That's no accidental policy. That's not an accident that's happened. It's designed to keep you down. It's designed to keep us down. So the system is against us until we break the system, until we have real equity. And I don't care about diversity and inclusion. I don't need diversity and inclusion. I need equity. Until we have some real equity, because equity is set net worth. Equity is what it takes to borrow some money. If you need to borrow $1 million and you got $500 million, I'll loan it to you every day. Because you got half of it. We have no net worth. We have no equity. We have very little equity. So I can go on, but I'm happy to talk later. I know Michael wants to keep us on time.
Right. I'm sorry. We'll leave it off course, but if you have to leave, please don't.
Don't leave yet.
Please don't. If you have to leave, please don't. Mike Williams, our esteemed leader. Mike Williams. I apologize. I'm supposed to be very tight. We started out too long. Mike, you've formed an organization that I'm familiar with concerning non-custodial fathers. And would you share with us some of your data and your finding and the issue? And it's a great organization. Every time it touches my heart every time I participate. So would you share our current situation concerning issues involving non-custodial fathers?
So David Lane, Dr. Lane was here this morning, back here, but he was trying to steal all my thunder. I was too early. When he was talking about the single parent structure and single parent home, I think one of the things I would like to share first of all is that we as fathers, we need to take our rightful place in society, especially as men in our homes, and even as, the cliche of the absent father. I've done this program for several years now, and I learn more each time I conduct a session, which is that the second thing we ought to do as non-custodial father. When I say that, because once you hear the numbers, you'll understand why. I am not a non-custodial father, by the way. But that doesn't mean that I'm not concerned with that non-custodial parent, because there's a great need for many of us to get engaged and get involved and be concerned about that person as well. We talk about some of the insurance and education, banking, and healthcare. To this point, Brother Aaron put up the police shootings, etc. All of those are impacts from single parent homes. Statistically, there are 12.4 million single parent homes in this country. 19.2 to 19.4 million children to those homes. 2/3 of those homes are white, 1/3 is African American. 45% of those homes, as Brother Williams said, live in poverty. 51% of the 45% live in extreme poverty, with an average household income of $9,900 a year. Very low. So if you look at those numbers, and what's so alarming about it is that African Americans make up 14% of this country's population. So there's 12.4 million single parent homes and 19.2 million children to those homes. That's over 31.6 million individuals affected by the single parent structure. that does not equate the absent parent, whether it be male or female. You add that other 12.4 million because it took 2 parents to have that child, right? Now you got about 43.6 billion people are connected to the single parent phenomenon. So again, 327 million people in this country, right? And we are roughly about 14.5 million African American parents. 90% of those homes, again, are laid out women. Back to the information that was previously shared. A woman cannot teach a boy how to be a man.
That's right.
So what I do is try to advocate for those fathers that want to be engaged in the lives of their children, especially these boys, as we see what's happening. From all the information that was given earlier, you know, healthcare, negative, crime, negative, education, negative, banking, negative, right? But we own that, and that's where we lose it, is we don't want to own that as a people. We remain a divided people. I'm going off script, but I'm going to tell you, I read a book called A Person in the Curse of Willie Lynch. Willie Lynch said, 280 years ago, I'll teach you how to build a slave. And if you do it just like I tell you to do it, it'll last 400 years. If that be true, we still got 120 years worth of that institutional slavery to deal with. We got work to do. I'm gonna give you some of the fallout for some of this, and I'll shut up. But after doing these conferences, I was exposed to some people that are really troubled, that have some of these mental health issues and other underlying circumstances as a result of their situation. And it was a situation that was not created by them. When I did one of the panels, I had a psychiatrist to serve as a panelist at the very first session. And after the meeting, I know she was kind of short with me. But she came to me and she asked me to do a program where she works, and I did. And I went over to do the logistics of the program. She said, okay, so who's going to be on your program? Who's going to be the panelists? And these are the conversations that we have. And so I started naming this. Well, I got a psychologist, I've got a preacher, I've got X amount of people. And she said, so do you have a therapist? And I say, well, I've got the psychologist coming, and I've got her. She said, no. I said, what am I missing? She said, no, I need a therapist. And I stopped, and I looked at her, and she said, when my mother got pregnant with me, my dad asked her to marry him, and she said no. He goes off to the military. She's about 14 or 15, and she overhears her mother talking about her dad and his brother. Apparently, she and her sister had been dating brothers. So she did some research and found her father. And when she got in contact with him, he said, did you not know about me? And she said, yeah. So why didn't you ever do anything for me? He said, because your mother told me you were dead. Wow. She's a psychiatrist. Right? So one thing that I've learned also is that biologically, children are emotionally connected to both parents. So when one fraction or the other goes missing, that child is affected. So it's imperative that, and I say that, it's imperative that dads, uncles, cousins, we have got to step up our game in those situations where we know dad is not there. We've got to do everything in our power to get there, where it's warranted now. One other example, two examples first. The first example was, I was promoting the program, and I sat down with a local minister. I said, I just need 15 minutes of your time. I gave him a brochure. I want to tell him about the program, tell him how we, as a community, need to do our due diligence. An hour later, I was telling him I had to go, because he's bought in, he saw the need, and he said to me, he said, let me give you an example. He said, I had a gentleman, 70 years old, come in my office on Father's Day.
I said, preacher, I need to talk to you after the sermon. And he goes in and he sits down and he starts to talk. And the older gentleman started to cry. And he couldn't understand why he was crying. And he stopped for a moment, he paused, he said, okay, so tell me what's wrong. He said, the message that you just gave about a father's love, I could not relate. I didn't have a father. And so I just paused for a minute and I asked him, hey, you ever seen the movie Antoine Fisher? Yeah. You remember when Antoine went into Rizelle and he had written him a thank you note on and such? And I said, do you remember what he said? He said, no. I said, I can't remember it verbatim, but I do remember this. And the one thing he said was, who will cry for the little boy? The boy inside the man. So it wasn't the 70-year-old that was crying. It was that little boy that was locked up. I could look out here amongst us today. I guarantee you, if I said how many of us in this room were raised in a single-parent home, we'll probably stand and be, or show of hands about, probably true to form on the statistics that I gave you. We have a problem. One last example, and I'm done. I was working with a guy in class. And I'm saying this stuff for a reason, because this is real, guys. This is real. We trying to answer all of these other questions, but this is one piece that we're missing, right? We have a responsibility. We are the ones that are affected the most. This guy came into my class. He threw a fit in the courthouse with the judge because he was trying to get custody of his child, or he was trying to get his visitation rights with his child. And he did it inappropriately. He was so angry that he lost his cool. He got put out of the courtroom, and the judge, she would not let him back in his courtroom, and he was begging for help. And so when I learned of his situation was that his daughter, remember the emotional piece? His daughter was living with the guy that raped her mother. So she was looking for that, and the mother shielded her from him. She was looking for that nurturing. So, brothers, I want to thank you for your time. I have some lot more I can say. I'm glad to visit with you as well. After we dismiss here, Brother Buchanan, you got some parting words before you head back home?
Oh, I just want to thank everybody. I enjoyed it. I think we should do this often because we have issues as black men daily, and we're responsible. The thing that frustrates me on a daily basis is that the education that I believe our sons are getting, that's frustrating to me because I know the outcome. And the second thing that frustrates me, I don't sleep at night, is the fact that we can't employ our own kids. That's crazy. Yeah. We raise our kids. I'm gonna tell you this. I'll sit down. Sit down. There was a 26-year-old black man came to my office. He knocked on my door, and he was in the Air Force, stationed in Jacksonville. He said, "I heard about you. I want to work for you." He had a suit on. You know the tight pants that young men wear? Tight pants. He was articulate, good looking. He was in the Air Force. I said, well, who the hell? I said, who are you? Knocking on my door bothering me. And he said, I just heard about you, Mr. Buchanan. He said, you're a cool dude. I want to work with you. I said, sit down. And so I was in the infantry, so I know how to talk. I said, sit down. Tell me about yourself. So he was in the Air Force. He was 26 years old. He was a paralegal in the Air Force. He had a degree in English. And I never look at anybody's resume that works for me. No black person, I just pick the rise education. And so he says, I'm getting out of the Air Force, and I want to work for you. And I said, well, and I knew at that point, he was task-oriented. He knew what he wanted to do. He was sharp. He was articulate. He could do the work. I said, why haven't you ever went to law school? He said, nobody ever encouraged me to go to law school. I said, you can do it. do it. He said, Mr. Buchanan, you're the only person who ever said that to me. I said, the only way you work with me is that you got to go to Howard. You work with me for a little while, but we're going to get you in law school. That's what I told him. Then I asked him, I said, how much money do you need? He said, I got a baby. I got a wife that don't work. I just bought a new house in Jacksonville. I got 2 new cars. He said, Mr. Buchanan, you know, and my parents send me money right now. You know, both parents, you know, he's a fresh baby. He said, I really need to survive. I need about $45,000. That's what he needs to survive. 30 years ago, when I had my first job in my white law firm, they paid me $60,000 a year. Are you following me? 30 years ago. And so I'm looking at this baby boy. Everybody's a baby in my 60s. I'm saying to myself, I want to cut him this check a year in advance. I want to cut it for him because I knew he was going to do right. I didn't have the money in my account. He needed health insurance. And so the crazy thing is that we can't employ the best of our kids. That makes no sense to me. We raise our kids up, send them to white folks to work. That's schizophrenia. Come sit down. I'll give my own church. I like it.
Get your own. Give our panelists a round of applause.